Back in the day, there was a small town called Willow Creek Junction. Thomas Harlan was a poor but diligent man. He owned no property, had no steady work, just a rundown shack and a couple of worn-out shirts. His most faithful friend was a dog named Rex, who never left his side. Thomas would head into the woods each morning, chop firewood, haul it to the market, and trade it for some bread and beans. But his wife Martha was sharp-tongued, talkative, and quick to lose patience. She constantly criticized him. "I must have been cursed to end up with a worthless guy like you." One evening, when Thomas returned home exhausted, Martha stood on the doorstep, eyes blazing with anger. She shouted, "Get out of here, you good-for-nothing. I can't stand the sight of you anymore." Thomas listened quietly and replied, "Martha, where am I supposed to go?" "This shack is all I have." Martha snapped, "Go live with your mutt. He's worth more than you." Thomas gathered a few belongings in an old sack, some scraps of food, and his heavy heart. He whistled for Rex and walked away from the town. At the far edge of Willow Creek Junction stood an ancient oak tree. He rested there, gazed at the stars, and whispered, "Lord, if the world has turned its back on me, at least don't shut your door." He and Rex continued along a lonely trail until they came across an abandoned, crumbling cabin. Once inside, Thomas kindled a small fire. Rex settled close by. He said, "Rex, you're my truest companion." That night, before drifting off, he began tidying the place. Suddenly, his hand struck something solid. Rex started pawing at the spot too. As they cleared away the dirt, an old wooden chest emerged. It had a rusty padlock on it. Thomas smashed it with a rock. The lock gave way. Inside gleamed a fortune. Gold pieces, silver jewelry, pearl strands. Thomas sat there, hands shaking. He murmured, "Lord, is this real, or have you answered my plea?" He bowed and touched the earth, saying, "Only you hold the mysteries." The next day, he reburied the chest. He took only a handful of coins and slipped back into the Willow Creek market, keeping his face low. He bought a new kettle, basic supplies, and a modest mule. He returned quietly, dressed like a beggar, so no one would notice. From then on, every night he removed a small amount of gold and began modest trading. This was how Thomas Harlan's fresh chapter started. No one suspected a thing. He began his business humbly. Within weeks, he opened a little stand on the edge of the town square. He sold apples, flour, and cornmeal. Crowds gathered, not just for goods, but for his fairness. No short measures, no dishonesty. Folks said, "That's a truly upright seller." Years went by, and Thomas Harlan's reputation grew as a man of honor throughout Willow Creek Junction. He still lived in that same humble cabin. But his spirit was so genuine that he shared meals with the needy. He offered water to travelers. In his heart, he thought, "The gifts from my Lord are best kept out of sight." At night, he'd sit quietly, petting Rex's head and murmur, "Who'd guess the wealthiest man in town sleeps in a shack and shares supper with his dog?" He vowed never to forget his roots or his struggles. Riches and gems would never control him. Time rolled on days, weeks, months. Thomas's integrity, thankfulness, and modesty only grew stronger. Rex remained his constant shadow. In the market or on the road, the dog was always there. People noticed the light in his life. Some admired it, others envied it. Among those watchful eyes was Martha's. Martha, who had cast him aside, had since married a harsh man. Her new husband was rude, cold, and violent. Martha's days filled with sorrow, shame, and mistreatment. Eventually, she divorced and returned to her family home. Now she often lingered in the market. She bought nothing, just watched Thomas from afar. Sometimes she'd ask a neighbor, "Is that the same Thomas Harlan who used to sell firewood?" The reply was always yes. But now folks called him a respected merchant. One evening, after prayers, Thomas heard a soft rap at the door. He opened it. Martha stood there, tears streaming, face lined by hardship. She whispered, "Peace to you, Thomas." Thomas looked at her without a word. The moment carried years of weight. No rage, no joy, just the faint echo of old pain. "Why have you come here like this at this hour?" Martha's voice shook. "I've come to say I'm sorry. I know I messed up badly. I see your worth now, but it's too late." Thomas motioned for her to sit. Then he spoke gently. Time does its healing, and hearts can forgive, but scars remain even after wounds close. Rex sat nearby, eyeing Martha as if his loyal instincts sensed something. The next morning, Thomas awoke to sweeping sounds outside. He looked out. Martha was cleaning the yard. She brushed old rugs and gathered cracked dishes. Surprised, he said, "I didn't ask you to do that." "Why?" Martha glanced up softly. "I want to make up for what I did." She paused. "Today I understand what you truly were worth." Thomas listened, then replied, "But is a man's worth in his money or in his character, honesty, and kindness?" Martha fell quiet. After hearing her, Thomas said gently, "If you'd seen my value back when I hauled wood, maybe you wouldn't face this now." Tears welled in Martha's eyes. She said hoarsely, "I was blind. Chasing worldly shine, I missed the real thing." Now one question remains: is there a second chance? Thomas looked at her deeply, then stepped into the yard and shut the door quietly. He knelt in prayer, searching his soul. Is this true regret, or desire for what I now have? He recalled the night she sent him away, when he had nothing but Rex as his loyal friend. At that moment, Rex entered and rested his head on Thomas's knee. Thomas stroked him and said, "Only those who stood by me in hardship belong here." In the quiet night, Thomas called Martha. "I'll say this once, what's between us is finished. I've forgiven you, but what's shattered doesn't mend the same." Martha lowered her head slowly. "Can I just stay as a helper?" Thomas answered. "If you're without a home." "My faith says to offer shelter. Stay in the far corner, but don't expect the heart to return to what it was." Martha wept quietly. She'd lost not only a husband, but the opportunity she might never regain. Time moved forward. Now the cabin, once just for Thomas and Rex, drew visitors. Some sought guidance, others aid. Prominent traders offered partnerships. In the square, people said, "Thomas Harlan, the former woodcutter, is now a pillar of trust." Yet Thomas showed no arrogance. He still wore simple clothes, stayed humble, remembering his beginnings. One day, a well-dressed man arrived in the market. With a thick mustache and stern expression, he said, "I'm Elias Grant, aide to the county commissioner. Your good name has reached us." Thomas replied calmly, "I'm well, what brings you?" Elias continued, "You're known for fairness, the town trusts you. We'd like you on the local board as a community voice." Thomas was stunned, as if in a dream. "Me, the man who slept in an empty cabin and drank from a tin cup, giving directions to others." "No, that's not for me." Elias was puzzled. "Opportunity knocks and you refuse?" Thomas sighed deeply. "Authority is only good if a man masters himself. If I stumble even once, my mistakes would harm more than my poverty ever did." Elias left quietly. The townsfolk marveled that the once poor man proved strongest in character. When Thomas returned home, he found Rex waiting outside, looking uneasy, as if sensing hidden trouble. Thomas sat and said, "Honestly, you've shown more loyalty than many called human. And plenty have hearts no better than a dog's." Now, talk of Thomas in Willow Creek Junction stirred more envy. There was a merchant named Victor Hale, round-faced and sharp-eyed. His words carried venom. One day he told his cronies, "I swear there's something shady about that man. I saw him digging late one night near the old fence on the west side." Whispers spread. Fear crept in. Rumors flew. He must have unearthed buried treasure. That's how he got rich so fast. The talk reached Harlan Crow, the same Crow who'd once been a thief, reformed, and become a traitor. But old greed lingered inside. Crow thought, grinding his teeth, "Treasure, if I miss this, I'll take it no matter the cost." Then the scheme began. Next morning, Crow sent his men. Pretending business interest, but really to spy clothes. They asked questions, probed for secrets. Thomas just smiled. He wasn't naive. They were sly, but Thomas had known solitude and learned to read every look. When that failed, Crow tried another tactic. He sent a smooth talker named Lyle. Wrapped in fine phrases and polished lies. Lyle sat with Thomas and said, "Friend, your reputation precedes you. Why not partner on something big? There's acreage by the spring. We could build a proper store. Join us, half the gains for you." Thomas replied slowly, "Who's the true partner? And what's the assurance this isn't a trick?" Lyle glanced around. "I swear," Thomas cut in. "No oaths. If it's real, put it in writing at the church in daylight before witnesses." Lyle's tone shifted. "Don't you trust me?" Thomas smiled, soft but knowing. "I trust God. Everything else is shadow to me," he called Rex. The faithful dog bounded over and sat beside him, staring at Lyle with a clear warning. Thomas said quietly, "The fortune you're chasing isn't gold or dirt. It's an endurance, faith, and honest labor. Now leave." Lyle's face darkened. He reported back to Crow. Crow laughed, but rage burned in his eyes. "If it won't come willingly, we'll take it." That very night, Crow gathered 3 rough men. It was pitch dark. The town slept. A chill wind stirred. 4 figures crept like shadows toward the cabin. Each carried a knife or club. Crow whispered, "Jasper, cover his mouth." Eli blocked the door. "We'll slip through the back window." But as they neared, a fierce growl shattered the quiet. The next instant, Rex leaped like a guardian, sinking teeth into Jasper's arm. Jasper yelled. His knife dropped, he collapsed. Thomas woke startled, grabbed a staff, and rushed out. He saw figures fleeing into darkness. "Crow, you coward, running from a sleeping man." The real treasure hides in sweat, patience, and grit. It was a moonless night. Crow crept toward the plot Thomas had quietly acquired as a reward. He held a forged document with a fake mark reading "Rex, loyal companion." As Crow lunged, Rex sprang again. A howl echoed, the village stirred. Doors flew open, lanterns glowed, villagers poured out. Chaos erupted. Crow was wounded but defiant. By dawn, the townspeople, elders, and judge assembled. Crow was seized. After care, he confessed the fake papers, lies, theft plot. An elder said, "Never seen a dog guard his master's ground like that." Another added, "Thomas, you've built your own fortune." The town leader declared Crow banished. And the land he coveted, now officially Thomas's, recorded in the town ledger. That day, Thomas gained not just land but the people's trust. Rex was no longer merely a dog, he symbolized devotion and honor. Soon, Thomas Harlan's name rang everywhere. Men sought his counsel. Women held him as an example of endurance. He developed a small marketplace on his new property, trading wool and more, growing his honest trade. His standing rose, his name spread. Then one morning, Martha approached with gentleness and humility. The same woman once his wife. Her steps faltered, eyes brimming with overdue tears. She said softly, "Thomas, I know I was wrong. The day I drove you out, I pushed light from my home." Thomas stayed silent. Then he looked down and spoke gently. "Martha, worry destroys much and greed twists people fast. But we learn, forgive, and go on." He stepped closer. "If you've returned for riches, turn back. If you've come for the man you never valued then, but respect now, you're welcome." Martha gazed downward, tears falling. "I swear, I've come for the Thomas I've finally understood. The one who showed me a man's measure isn't in his attire or fortune, but in his soul." Thomas took her hand. "Let's begin again. This cabin is ours, and if 2 honest hearts share it, it becomes a home." Rex bounded over, leaped happily, barking as if celebrating the reunion. That night, Thomas gathered the townsfolk and said, "Thomas Harlan was once broke, a nobody friend to a dog. Today I'm the richest, not from gold, but because people care for me." And so the tale ended, where true wealth lay not in earth, but in honor, loyalty, and love. A dog taught loyalty, a humble man earned respect. If you enjoyed the story, give it a like and subscribe for more. See you next time.